Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ASG Way, a podcast for Solutionists. My name is Jacob Keith, and I'm ASG's social media specialist. For our first episode, I interviewed Suna Sibi, a development engineer at ASG. Suna has been with ASG for 2.5 years, and her hard work and problem-solving skills have received praise from both clients and coworkers alike.
My name is Suna Sibi. I work as a development engineer in ASG, Adjuvant Solutions Group. My background is primarily in biomedical engineering, and so I've got a good bit of experience, a few years working in that industry now. So yeah, that's just a brief intro on myself.
So how did you become interested in engineering? Was there like a certain, teacher or textbook or job that you saw and said, this is something I'm passionate about?
Yeah, so there's an interesting bit of backstory here. I'll try not to get too crazily detailed because as an engineer, that is one of my it's a good thing, but it can be a bad thing, so I can bore people after a while. But anyways, so my family is like super tech oriented. My father works in the PCBA manufacturing industry, and my mother, she's retired now, but she worked as an electrical engineer, primarily in as a test engineer. So I've been around a lot of tech all my life. Technology fascinates me because it's evolving to no end. Um, so the way I ended up getting into engineering was I started out as a bio pre-med major in undergrad. And then my senior year, I decided, you know what? Given my family background, I'm really interested in the tech side of the medical field as opposed to the people interaction side. So, and this insight was really discovered through my newfound love of coding. So it was the first year in which I coded in a program for the first time. It was R. It was which is a statistical computing software. So after graduating, I said, you know what? I know I have my biology degree, but I'm going to biomedical engineering now. So yeah, very spontaneous, much like that's very me. So I took both post-baccalaureate courses in New York for 2 years. And that's where I confirmed that, yes, I do want to confirm biomedical engineering. I know I really enjoyed doing hands-on stuff through my experience in building race cars. I helped design and build the car seat, and that involved, procuring the materials, defining the manufacturing process, which, sounds pretty similar to what I do now. I consult, I help get materials from A to B, I build prototypes, we test them, so on and so forth. So yeah, after all that, I came back to Illinois and I got my master's in biomedical engineering. Now here's the interesting bit. I kept it non-thesis, so I didn't write a thesis or anything because I wanted to broaden the areas of coursework because I still wasn't really sure what I wanted to focus on. And then of course, eventually I decided I wanted to focus on the medical device industry.
That I guess works out for you because you found something you were passionate through this entire path. Like, what
Yeah.
was the most challenging part of that?
Figuring out what I wanted to focus on because engineering, it's not really limited to a single field. It's everywhere. There's so many different directions you can go because it's all about defining and implementing some kind of a refined build, among other things, of course. So part of what I did when I was at Northwestern for grad school was I did an MS certificate program in translational biomedical research. So what that entailed was, okay, you've learned all this stuff in school. How do you bring that to the industry? So I interned at a medical device company, very much like ASG actually, for 6 months. So I consulted with clients. I don't do as much of this now, but I did a lot of testing prototypes. I wrote test protocols, and yeah, that experience is what helped me kind of address that challenge I face and like, okay, I want to dive into tech and I want to go into engineering, but what industry? Because the options are endless. And the other bit is because I took this rather unorthodox path in like switching from just the life sciences to engineering, I had to do basically 4 to 5 years of engineering in two with my post-bac. That was really intense. So understanding the fundamentals was a huge challenge for me too, because I skipped all of the intro courses and went straight into the advanced stuff. So fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, materials in medical devices. One thing I'd like to pride myself in is that I'm really good at application, and I typically work my way backwards to back to the base concepts. But again, because I didn't do any of those one-on-one stuff, sometimes that can be a little challenging to me. And ASG is just really good at providing me that guidance in understanding the base technical concepts, because they understand that that's just not something I had in my academic repertoire, so to speak. I've gained a lot of that just through hands-on experience, which has been really beneficial to me. So overall, my biology game is strong, but my engineer skills are something that I continue to improve upon, given the accelerated path I took to get to where I'm at today.
Speaking of ASG, how did you come to work at ASG?
Oh, I love talking about this. This is really cool. So, Megan Keeneman, who was our former business manager, she found me on LinkedIn. So I had just left my job as a data analyst a couple months back, because I wanted to expand my skills out, my technical skills out more as an engineer. I had been really struggling to find a position for about a couple months now because there wasn't anything that really catered to what I wanted to do. So for one day, just for kicks, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to change my tagline on LinkedIn, and say, I am specifically looking for opportunities in the med device industry. All I said was just what industry in biomedical engineering I wanted to do. Nothing crazy. And then about a day later, Megan shot me an IM saying, hey, are you interested in this engineering position at ASG? So the crazy thing is I never formally applied for this position at all. I just answered a questionnaire, talked to a few folks, and then I finally talked to Doug Keeneman, our company owner, who just happened to be in Illinois on assignment because I was still living in Illinois with my parents at the time. And so, we had dinner, we chatted for a bit, and then about a week later, I got the offer, and about a month after that, I moved to Indy, and I've been here since 2018. It's been great.
What's it like being an engineer at ASG?
Oh my gosh, it is absolutely fascinating. So every day I'm learning a little bit of something or even a lot of something about how things work or how they're meant to connect logically. And it doesn't even have to be related to my project. It can just be like about the world or really anything I want. So one of the things I really enjoy about being at ASG is the freedom to grow and learn. Like you can be curious about anything and everything. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily like engineering oriented, but it's always going to tie back to those base concepts you see in engineering, which is something I value as someone who wasn't really exposed to a lot of the introduction to those base concepts, given my academic background. So it's great because I can, like, as an engineer, I can logically tackle problems with that mindset. So you break down your system, which is your problem statement, you look for the pieces, you see how they connect and bring it all together to provide a like wholesome solution. So really being an engineer, especially at ASG, is being a solutionist. So we're trying to approach clients with our services with a solutions driven mentality in mind. And we don't focus on just like a single like little niche area, because we have to consider problems again from a systems oriented perspective. So everything in the projects that we do that we're involved with is very interconnected. And as my tech lead says, we at ASG really serve as the peanut butter, keeping all these cross-functional project aspects well connected and engaged.
Okay, so ASG has a lot of women engineers. What's it like working in an environment where, uh, compared to most of the industry, we have a lot of women?
You know, that's a very interesting question you bring up, because there's just so many of us at ASG that are like females. It allows me to be more of myself. So the way I approach my job at ASG, it's really not much different to how I am like outside of the workplace environment. And also, to be honest, everyone like my family, my friends, they've always described me as just being logically minded in how I piece together information and dissected problems. And it's nice and very refreshing, really, that I can bring a lot of myself and how I approach things to ASG without having to really redefine how I am fundamentally as a person. I will admit it does feel a bit weird after certain meetings where I lead a lot of efforts to coordinate discussions and keep projects moving. Because at first it's just not, it doesn't seem like a big deal to me because I'm approaching things logically as an engineer and as myself as a person. And then I realized, holy cow, one, I'm leading discussion efforts, but more importantly, two, I'm a woman in engineering leading these discussion efforts just so naturally and with like not really much stress. And the awareness that it's Women History Month, it really brings these realizations to the forefront of my mind, and that's absolutely mind blowing and just like awesome to just see.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for future engineers, specifically future women who want to go into engineering?
So this is a bit of a reputation I've developed with my clients, and it is an advice I'm going to spread to all women engineers or any woman interested in STEM. Really, don't be afraid to ask questions, no matter how dumb they may seem, because questions really represent well, they do represent a drive for curiosity, and that's one of our foundational tenets as that we at ASG advocate very strongly, and that's actually one of the main reasons I did end up being at ASG is because of my strong drive for curiosity and just always asking questions. I spam
Okay.
a lot of IM chats, so I can strongly attest to that, and I haven't received objections on how I engage in that matter. So yeah, just ask a lot of questions.
I mean, it's got you this far, you know?
Exactly, and asking those questions is it's part of the journey. It's part of how you grow, not just like as an engineer and not just like professionally in your career, but just as a person too. That's how you develop your way of thinking and your worldview really.
So clearly you just talked about it a little bit, like logic drives you in this search
Mhm.
for, technology and building something better. What's next for you in your career?
As I continue to really engage all these groups cross-functionally, I do see myself really being more of that. I wouldn't say observer, an engaged observer, if you will. So I can see myself really heading up a lot more of the project management efforts and just making sure these pieces continue to stay interconnected, that we continue to be engaged, that we continue to think of all these things we develop, devices, concepts, what have you, as like a system that's dependent on all these interconnected pieces to really come together and function the way we want it to, and to really see that impact and how we improve patients' life from start to finish. Right now, I get dropped in like a project, mid-phase, beginning, wherever, and they're like, all right, Suna, go. And I'm like, you know what? It'd be really cool for me to become like more to take on a stronger PM role where I get placed at things from the start. And yeah, I really like being depended on, even for like, because what I do, to me, it's like this is normal, this is logical, this is seemingly simple, it makes sense, right? And then later on, the clients will come back to me and be like, oh my gosh, Suna, you are making things so much easier for us. Like, I don't think you understand. Like, you have taken so much off our plate. And like hearing that is just such a good feeling of fulfillment for myself, but also knowing like I'm not just making an impact to patients' lives, but I'm making our clients' lives like much easier by taking on this role of an expediter to keep things moving and keep our uh, you know, product development timeline on like a good scale, at a scale that impresses even like stakeholders at times.
Thank you everyone for tuning in to the interview with Suna. We'll see you next time on the ASG Way, a podcast for solutionists.